Hello, welcome to Scrap Time. My name is Christine, and in this video I'm going to be making a Christmas card using a template from the Crafter's Workshop, and I'm going to show you how you can emboss texture paste. In this video I'm going to show you how to make this Christmas card. I used a template from the Crafter's Workshop, and we used some texture paste, and then what we do is emboss the texture paste. And so it just gives you a really dimensional texture on your card for the words and the design, and it really pops out. And then after it's done, we'll spray it with some Distress spray stain. So we'll get started. Whenever I'm using texture paste in that, I like to use a watercolor card. It's a little thicker, and so it will hold up the mediums. And so this is my template, Very Merry Christmas. And because I'm going to be doing a bunch of texture paste, what I want to do is, a lot of times I don't tape my templates on, but I want to protect these areas. So I'm just going to use some washi tape, and I'm just going to tape it all in place. And that way my texture paste won't get onto that part of the card where I don't want it. And at the same time, it will hold it sort of in place. So I'm putting some tape on the top and the bottom of the card just to protect it. But at the same time, I want to make sure that my tape doesn't cover up the design there. So there, we have it in place. So I'm using the Ranger texture paste, but you can use light molding paste, and so many companies now have different types of embossing paste, texture paste, molding paste. Use whichever you have. And I am just spreading it on like you would spread on icing. You want to make sure you're getting the paste in all those areas. So now what I sometimes like to do is, I have a larger tool here. You could always put your paste on and put on, but I like to use the smaller one. I find I have more control when I'm doing this one. But then I'll come in with this, spread it just across, and it will help smooth it out and take off some extra paste. So when I'm cleaning my stencil, it makes it easier as well, because there's less paste on my stencil. So let's close this up. So now we're going to remove our template. I like to use the washi tape because it just peels right off. It won't tear your paper of your card. And I'm just going to wipe off the excess here. So our next thing we're going to do is add the embossing powder. You just want to get either a piece of paper, it can be scrap paper, it can be a coffee filter, something that's going to catch your embossing powders. I'm using the American Craft Zing Silver Metallic Finish powder for this card, but any embossing powders will work. And I'm giving it a nice generous amount all over. I do half, and then I'll flip it over and do the other half. Now it looks like we're using a lot, but so much of it will get put back into the bottle. You actually won't use that much. You'll use a little bit more than regular because it's a larger design, but you still don't use that much. go back wherever there isn't much. So now we have it covered. Oh, I see a little bit here on the edge. So our design is covered, and now we're going to put it aside and let it dry a bit. I don't want to heat it yet because the texture paste is still quite wet. So we're just going to put it aside, let it be, and carry on with some other stuff, and we'll come back to it later. So our card has been sitting for a couple hours now, and it is pretty dry, so I'm going to now hit it with a heat tool. Now, because that heat is very directional, you may find that it will bubble a bit, so you want to keep moving it around. But in this case, I don't mind if it puffs up a bit, because it just gives it a bit extra dimension. So I didn't really get any puffing, so it must mean that my texture paste was quite dry. I think when I did my gold one, it might not have sat as much, and that's why it puffed up a bit. But you can just see how beautiful it's like liquid metal on there. It's really great. I'm just giving it a moment to cool, and we're going to spray it with some spray mist. When I spray, I like to put a napkin underneath. It just helps for cleanup. It helps absorb the excess spray. And I think it's dry enough. I'm going to use 3 colors. I've got candy apple, picked raspberry, and barn door. Start with the light picked raspberry. Just give it a bit of a color. Barn door. I want it more Christmassy, but the raspberry just gives it a little extra, so I'm heavy on the reds and the candy apple. So if I want it really red, I could leave it like that. If I want it just softer, I can take another paper towel and just absorb some of that excess. And all this spray will come off the embossed area. So there we have that. I'll pull out the gold one, just so you can see the difference. This one I had put more red on, and I may go back to do another layer on this one. But there we have the gold and the silver version of the same card, and it's another way you can use your stencils with embossing patterns and make some nice festive Christmas cards for the holiday season. Thanks for watching. Be sure to give our video a thumbs up and subscribe to Scrap Time videos on YouTube. In the meantime, here are a few other videos you might be interested in watching. See you next time. Bye bye.